I genuinely don't know. I mean, I might be more shocked if they were human made because of their behaviors and they never were able to get one. I did have somebody tell me recently that they had heard, I mean, again, it's always secondhand. It's so untrustworthy, but somebody told me that the military got one of the orbs, the famous orbs, and opened it up and it was Chinese. I mean, if that's the case, then somebody has mastered anti-gravity, and that's almost harder for me to believe than that it's NHI, because I mean, it's just, I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, here's the, I literally go back and forth. You can see me doing it in the same conversation, but we have these huge black budgets in the military. I mean, just gigantic, and they've been there for decades. So is it possible to cover up something like that? I think it might be. I mean, I'm much more, after having covered the Hunter Biden laptop and, I mean, Russiagate too, but really the Hunter Biden laptop, I was just impressed by how many people were involved in the conspiracy to cover it up. I mean, you had the FBI getting it, covering it up, basically working with Aspen Institute to run a disinformation campaign. By the way, this is Vivian Schiller and Garrett Graff run the disinformation campaign aimed at persuading journalists in advance of the release of the Hunter Biden laptop that it was a Russian information operation. Garrett Graff is the guy that goes and does the big UFO book. So these things all, I mean, this was very weird. So he comes out with a big book on UFOs. I think it was last year. It's called UFO. Garrett Graff. This is somebody that is famously close with the intelligence community. His other books were on Watergate and on 9/11. The book,
and both of which were totally legitimate.
No, for sure. And I'm sure the official story is everything we need to know. So, you know, you sort of go...
And what was his conclusion on UFOs?
Well, it's the narrative is that they don't know what they are. So he's not like a debunker, like these guys who are like, we can explain everything. So he's much more sophisticated than that. But it's basically a debunking. It's basically that it's just all the, you know, typical explanations. And then maybe some U.S. military programs, but he also just says that he just argues that the U.S. military doesn't know what it is. I don't believe Garrett Graff, and the reason I don't believe Garrett Graff is because I saw him participate in a disinformation campaign on Hunter Biden laptop, and I know for a fact that there's something else going on at that Aspen Institute program, and Aspen Institute, of course, is a massive U.S. government-funded NGO that cosplays as a kind of, you know, bourgeois gab fest. So I'm like, that was all came out in the Twitter files. I discovered that in the Twitter files. And for me, it was like pulling back the curtain, and you actually have, as a journalist, like we have the emails, you know, like you have the documents, you have the tabletop exercise where they're brainwashing journalists into believing a lie about the Hunter Biden laptop. That was so sophisticated that, because they basically go and brainwash journalists before the story comes out, because they know they're listening to Giuliani, you know, their FBI tap on Giuliani. They're listening to Giuliani. They know we got to go brainwash the journalists. They go get all the journalists from all the major outlets, plus the social media platforms, in these seminars where they program them. I mean, that was like, for me, it was like, wow, there's like a secret government. Like, it was like, it was very just sophisticated. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, it was everything seemed very careful. Also, with all the censorship stuff, you see these limited hangouts, right? Where limited hangouts are kind of like the public relations of a covert operation, of like a covert propaganda operation, where like after they get caught, they can be like, oh no, we were totally honest about what we were doing. We were talking about it. But they do these weird limited hangouts. You'll see these people that clearly look like either directly intelligence community or they're intermediaries having these conversations they put on YouTube, and like, they're like, but it's like, you know, a couple hundred views. Like, they're not promoting them in any way. And so you just kind of go, wow, there's like a whole creepy like world of disinformation.
And what you realize is that the covert operations are really not covert. Like, all the information's out there, actually.
Right.
But it's just discredited or unnoticed, or no one collates it. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, no, I know. And you only can understand it when you see the whole big picture, because there's no smoking guns ever. So there's never something you can... I mean, Hunter Biden laptop got us about as close to as a smoking gun as you can get. And it helped because what helped to expose it was that it was partisan. And so it was a particular partisan weaponization. My concern with the UAPs, I mean, it's now, I guess, the strength and a weakness is that it's become bipartisan in terms of the desire. I mean, it was really, Tucker, the weirdest experience I've had. I've testified now like 12 times or 13 times in front of Congress in the last few years. The weirdest experience I've had was on UAPs, seeing the Democrats and Republicans basically being aligned in wanting to get to the bottom of the UAP thing. I mean, it's beautiful. Like I've never seen it. I was like, I've heard of bipartisanship.
Yeah.
Never thought I would see it in the wild. So that is exciting. On the other hand, I suspect that there is also some bipartisan group that's trying to prevent that information from getting out for some reason. So I mean, look, I mean, it is what is going to happen? I mean, part of me is, maybe it's my defensive pessimism on it because, like everybody else, I want the information. Part of me is like, there's just no way they're going to let that information out. It's just there's something about the UAP thing, like the JFK thing, where there's some secret there that there is some group of people that really don't want us to know. So,
Well, that's a fact.
Yes.
I bumped up against that personally several times on both of those issues, which appear to be related.
Yes.
But I don't know the answer. It's almost like seeing something in photographic negative. All I know for a fact, confirmed, is that they are willing to go to extreme lengths to keep it secret. And so that's just to tell that there's something profound there. It's not just a bureaucracy covering its own ass. It's more than that.
I mean, how about the clip where Pompeo is being interviewed about the JFK files, and then he like literally mid-sentence goes, but I mean, I've also seen the UFO files. And it was like, well, why did you just switch from like, what made you think of the UFO files on the JFK files? I don't know. I mean, so anyway, is there a secret? Have we developed anti-gravity? I mean, we know that in the 50s, there's a whole book on it. It's very fascinating, but there was an anti-gravity program in the U.S. military with our defense contractors. It made the cover of one of the aerospace magazines. It was like a cover of it. And then it just disappeared. And so you can kind of go, I think the official experts go, yeah, we tried that and it didn't work. It's like, well, that's never stopped you before.
Right.
Like it not working, like that's like, like you would keep working on it if you can do anti-gravity. So the other possibility is that it just went dark and they kept doing it.
Well, I wonder though about the possibility that there is or has been technology transfer from some other realm to this realm. Because there are, just in the study of history, there's really no understanding at a bunch of different points in human societal evolution. Like, where did that technology come from? And you see that on a bunch of different technologies. So, but nuclear, anti-gravity, that kind of stuff, like, are you open to the possibility that there's been like a transfer of that technology from some other realm?
I mean, that is that is what a lot of people talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with this issue is it's very frustrating because it's just all secondhand.
Of course it is.
And so, like, the Hunter Biden laptop is not secondhand. Like, it's firsthand, and I have the documents. Now, there are a bunch of really fascinating, alleged secret U.S. government documents on UFOs, on alleged alien spacecraft crashes. They're called the Majestic documents or the MJ-12 documents, and so the story is that that one or two of these craft crashed in 1947 near Roswell, New Mexico, and that sort of begins and there's a whole cast of characters that allegedly including Oppenheimer were involved in that program. Why
would Oppenheimer be involved?
Well, why? I mean, because he was the man. He was our greatest scientist. Obviously, the father of the atomic bomb, and Roswell is where where we launched the flights to bomb Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So it's very symbolic in that sense.
Maybe more than symbolic.
Yeah, maybe more than symbolic. I mean, they keep flying over nuclear. Like, as my wife says, she's like, your aliens really, they don't like the nuclear. Because I love nuclear, so and I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, like, and also the most ridiculous thing is when people are like, oh, yeah, they want us to give up our, the people that believe in them, they go, the aliens are here and they want us to give up our nuclear weapons. So it's like, doesn't sound like a good idea to me. The foreign space invaders would like you to give up your most powerful weapons. But those documents, I spent a bunch of time on them and I couldn't figure out how to report anything on it because, of course, FBI was like, these are all debunked, they're all frauds. But first of all, there's a lot more of them. You go to majesticdocuments.com and you can look at them. They're amazing. I mean, if they are, and I've also had they're, by the way, in the Garrett Graff book, they're in that book. There's another debunking book called, by Mark Pilkington. I'm blanking on the name right now. But they all the people that are the debunkers deal with these documents, and their story is not that they were all hoaxes. Their story is that they were what's called counterintelligence passage material.
Right.
documents that were created by the U.S. government but leaked to people to ostensibly be able to smoke out double agents or people like you would see them. I guess you would trace these documents,
Right. Like putting dye in the water to find the leak.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, but the thing is, I mean, it is like there's like one of them is a handbook of crash retrieval, like for like to like that the soldiers would ostensibly read to retrieve these crash. I mean, it's if they're hoaxes, they're incredible. I mean, like they have the people like I forgot what it's called, but like basically like a manifest where they show who's checked it out and read it, and they have all these different names, and they've checked those names, and those were like real people at those air bases that had these documents. So, and then there was one document in particular where it was a memo from JFK to the CIA director Dulles, where he says, "I want to see you on this particular day." It was like July 62 or 63, I can't remember which. And now again, everyone's like, "Oh, that's a forgery. It's part of the MJ-12 documents or whatever. It's not real." But then they released the JFK files, and then sure enough, we see the Dulles calendar, and he had met with JFK twice that day, and nobody had known that they had those meetings until we had that JFK until we had the confirmation of the memo. So that would suggest that at least either that document is real, that JFK memo to Dulles, or whoever forged it knew that he had met with Dulles that day, and nobody else had known that. So you'd be sort of like, I guess you could still put it in this is the problem with this issue is you can still, there's still plausible deniability for all these things. You can make up a reason for why these documents are all counterintelligence passage material. I don't know. That's why I just have to kind of go, I don't know. I mean, I talked to a lot of people and, it's just a lot of secondhand information and the documents are secondhand. So you kind of go, there's like my world of like the Hunter Biden laptop, which still a bunch of my progressive and Democrat friends and family don't believe. They still think the Russians were somehow involved. But like I actually have the documents and we can prove what happened there. On the UAP stuff, it's just still just surrounded in
But
mystery.
the incoming president has said, I'm going to tell you what those drones were about.
He was very relaxed about it too. I mean, I was struck that when he said it twice. He said it again recently, like last week, right? But then he said it in December. He goes, "I don't know why they're buying. Like, I don't know why they're not telling people what they are. They know what they are." And I was like, I mean, it was a really. He made it sound like it's no big deal. Like we should just tell people what it is. But if Trump knew what it is, and if it's NHI and Trump knows that, he seemed very relaxed about that because, of course, the conventional wisdom among people that follow this who think it's NHI is that it's bad news, that it's not a great story, that if it were good news and that they were just friendly space brothers, offering us, advanced tech, then, and they'd be like, and there's no strings attached or whatever, that would be a much easier story to sell. But if there's some bad news in that story, then that might explain why they're so secretive.
Well, clearly there's some bad news. My theory is that the reason that permanent Washington or deep state or whatever, people who administer the system hate Trump is not because of any of his policies, which they're probably agnostic on, but because they fear that he will disclose information. I think everything's about disclosure. If you look at the federal government, its defining quality is secrecy, right?
Yes.
1 billion classified documents. Why is that?
Right.
It's not good. It's never good. Your kids behave like that. It's not good.
No.
They're using drugs or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're having sex they shouldn't be having. There's never a good reason for that kind of secrecy. It's not privacy, it's secrecy. So,
right. Yes.
And there's something about Trump that makes everybody nervous that he might say more of what he knows than he should.
Well, they don't control him,
that's
obviously.
Right.
So that's very nerve-wracking. I mean, how much do you think that they're just worried that he's going to pull out of NATO? How much of it is that?
Of course, that's in my daily prayers that he would do that. I don't think he's in danger of doing that. I certainly hope so. But I think it's even more fundamental. It's like this guy could say the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because Trump is not much of a liar, actually, by Washington standards. He's an exaggerator, of course. But actually, his defining quality is like saying the truth.
He's being honest about kind of the big issues.
The big issues, exactly.
So what do you, so you think he knows what it is?
The UAP stuff?
Yeah.
I do think that, yes.
And you think it's a NHI?
He hasn't told me. But yeah, I do think he knows. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure he knows. And I'm pretty sure that everybody I've ever spoken to who I think knows a lot more than I do. I mean, what does it mean to know? Like, do we really know anything? I don't know. I'm not sure anybody fully understands this or even partially understands it, but the people who I'm confident have a lot more information than I have to a person are very, very uncomfortable about it.
Yeah.
Since not in public, in private, which is another tell. That I'm just not, I mean, you've talked to a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's very, yeah. I mean, I say my prayers. I'm still Christian. I mean, it's interesting. Joe, when I was on Joe Rogan's podcast last time, I mean, here, Joe was like, I think that they're extraterrestrials. He's openly saying that.
Yeah, it's not.
So you kind of
not the case.
Well, okay, or NHI, I guess NHI.
Yeah.
But I mean, here you and Joe are like the two big, most influential podcasters in the country, and you both think that it's not just a government secret tech, or that it's not just plasmas.
No.
And Joe's very close with Elon, loves Elon, like me, and I think probably like you, believes that Elon deserves a huge amount of credit for saving free speech in this country. Elon says there's nothing there. Never sees anything, and they've got an amazing rocket system that sees a lot of things.
I'm not sure. I've talked to Elon about this a number of times, and I'm not sure he says that.
Okay, I thought he did say that.
No.
I thought he said if there's any aliens...
He jokes about it, which is a tell. Trump does too. And they joke in the same way. I mean, of course, I love them both, obviously, and I feel like, I feel like they both have really been great for this country, net, as they say. But no, they joke about it in the same way that a lot of people joke about it. They're like, no, there are no flying saucers from Mars.
Right.
Well, of course, they're not from Mars. They're not from another planet. They're from here. They've always been here. These are spiritual entities. This is my view, and I sincerely believe it. Can't prove it. But since you asked, so he is, I've never heard Elon say that's not true.
Be dismissive.
That there's nothing there. He just said, look, we monitor space. That's what they do, right? And this is self-evident. If there have been so many sightings in this country and around the world that if they were from another galaxy far, far away, there would be some satellite evidence of that. They'd be picked up coming into our atmosphere. And of course, that's not, as far as I know, true.
Well, we do have some photos. I mean, there's that one photo of the one, I can't remember, it's in the James Fox documentary. So there are some of those, apparently.
Coming through space in here.
And certainly I've been told there's a lot more of those photos and images. But yeah, I mean, there's also... It would
not surprise me, though. I mean, it's clear that these things reside, deep in the earth, under the water, and in the atmosphere. So, I mean,
and why the elusiveness then? Why the secrecy?
Well, that's the question. That is the question. I mean, why is everybody who, again, I don't know what anybody really knows. I don't know anything. I just want to start every sentence by admitting I don't know anything. I don't know what happens when you die. I don't know how the brain works. I don't know anything. I don't know what sleep is for. None of us do.
That's a really interesting one. That's a surprisingly interesting one, actually.
But it's so revealing of the limits of human knowledge. It's like, science has solved this. Really? What's sleep for? Tell me how that benefits us. Sleep, really? But anyway, so I just always want to say and remind myself of the limits of my knowledge, which are profound. So I don't know anything. But once again, every person I've talked to who I believe has deeper knowledge on this question than I have has seemed burdened by it. Have you noticed this?
Yeah.
And these are not people who are making money from it.
No.
These are not people trying to get famous from it. These are people who just seem to have this knowledge and they're bothered by it. So that's
I don't think it's to cover up a secret weapons program. I mean, in other words, like I don't think that's how you would do it. It's so like, I don't believe it.
A secret weapons program.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's much deeper. Like weapons programs come and go.
Right.
Weapons that we thought were fearsome when I was a child are a joke now. We're watching weapons technology change so fast in the Ukraine war that people can't even get their brains around.
And you wouldn't need this elaborate. And also, like, if you're doing passage material, like, just to go back to those cases, like, why would it be that? And why would there be so much of it? Why wouldn't it be something... anyway, it's a very curiously large body of passage material.
Yes.
On this particular topic.
Well, that's right. Well, that's what I was saying. Like, I do think all the puzzle pieces are sort of in plain sight.
Did you ask Putin about it?
I did not ask Putin about it. I would never have done it on air because I did ask him a bunch of questions off camera about, he has access to, of course, he controls the Soviet archives, and the Soviets were great archivists. And we know that from the, couple of, I'm interested in Soviet leadership and government and all that stuff. There have been a couple amazing books written. The Court of the Red Tsar being, I think, the greatest of them, about Stalin, for example. And one thing you learn from reading the book is they kept records on everything, almost like the Nazis, like crazy level records. And, most of them have never been disclosed. So I did have some questions for Putin about that, about Rudolf Hess specifically. It's one of the great stories in history that doesn't make any sense at all. The number 2 guy in Nazi Germany flying into Scotland in a plane by himself and bailing out, right before the U.S. entry into the war, and had all these things to say that were wild. And one of the things he apparently said in his debriefs was he believed that Hitler was being influenced by demonic spirits that he had summoned through the occult. Huh? That's not worth knowing more about.
There's a lot of stuff on that.
There's a lot. There's a
Yeah.
lot. But Hess said that. So I immediately asked Putin about that off camera. I didn't want to seem like a wacko having unauthorized questions, but I did ask him about that. He did not get a satisfactory answer, but I did not ask him about UFOs.
Well, I thought also you may have seen Mark Andreessen recently said that when he met with White House officials who said that they wanted to take control over all AI, that they said to him something like, "We've declassified whole areas of science since the 1950s," and I was like, that just seemed like a reference to this stuff, at least to the anti-gravity, if not to some of the UAP stuff.
I think the modern Western mind, the post-1945 Western mind, is incapable of understanding some of the stuff because we lack the language of, metaphysics. And I think that's, just been a feature of human thinking from the cave period
right
until we dropped the atom bomb, in which case it just turned off and we're like, oh, only the material world is real. But no one else has ever thought that because that's not true.
Well, like for 100 years, right? Really from Darwin, or 150 years or something.
Yeah, but I don't think, even before the war, before dropping those bombs, which really were, I do think that's like the pivot point in history more than anything else. But yeah, there have been secular movements. Rich people always think they're God, and so they want to eliminate any rivals from the public from the conversation. But those bombs, man, everything changed. You don't think?
Well, it sure seemed like it. There's a really positive side of it, though, which is that we haven't had these awful wars.
Yes.
Brutal. When you look at the death toll that was going up and up from wars all throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, it's awful. So they've spared us that, but it took something apocalyptic.
Well, it's been 80 years. We'll see.
Yeah.
So last question. Sorry, I've got... Can you imagine sitting next to me at dinner? Like you never get anything done. And you're, I think, one of the most knowledgeable people in the country on like all the most interesting topics. So
you're too kind.
So, no, it's just a fact. In fact, if there's anything in this conversation I think is like provoked in people, it's a desire to hear more Michael Shellenberger. So,
thank you.
Do you think it's possible that what we're seeing in LA, which does feel like the destruction of our second biggest city, from which maybe there's no recovery? I don't know. I hope. But do you think it's an act of war in some sense?
You mean from a foreign power, or?
I do.
Oh, like what's the evidence for that?
It happened, and it happened between Trump's election and his inauguration, and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
The second Trump got elected, I had this instinct like, oh man, I bet there's going to be bad stuff that happens.
I was more struck by that on the UAP, on the drone.
Yeah.
UAPs.
Well, exactly. It's of a piece.
Yeah.
Bizarre Tesla explosion in Las Vegas.
Very weird.
Mass shooting. Like there's just, if there's a 2-month period in my whole life, 55 years, where more weird shit's been packed into 2 months, I can't think of it.
Yeah.
Can you?
No, it's freaking me out a little bit.
Me too.
Honestly.
Me too.
I spent a bunch of time on the Livelsberger. That's the guy that killed himself in the Tesla in Las Vegas. You definitely have cases of PTSD causing people to do things, and people are surprised by suicides. But yeah, it was a weird one, and I was skeptical of his emails because, I sent these emails to Sean Ryan. He's another excellent podcaster now. I think you've had him on, or you've been on there.
He's a friend of mine. I can, just for the record, I consider him an honest.
Oh no, I did
think
too.
Ryan is an honest man.
No, for
he's
sure.
A CIA operative. Oh, shut up.
No. I was like, I was like enjoyed because I believe in Sean, and I'm sure he did not fake that. So, and then the FBI did confirm that those emails were real. On the other hand, that was a weird one too, because also it felt like he was like, oh, the Chinese, those were Chinese drones. They've mastered gravitic. It just felt like he didn't really know what he was talking about either. So there's just a lot of
Have you
people
ever heard the word gravitic before?
I thought it was anti-gravity is what I've heard.
But I'd never, well, you're a writer. You're a word person. I'd never heard that word or seen that word. I think
felt like he was using it wrong. That was my instinct.
That was my thought too. I looked it up.
Yeah. No, I guess I look at it, I just think Nietzsche really nailed it, which is that when people stop believing in traditional religions, they unconsciously, develop, they develop a new sense of guilt, a new vision of the apocalypse. They invent a new soul. People think that there's this thing called gender, which is separate from your body. It's kind of like a soul. My friend Abigail Schreier pointed that out. And so we just end up recreating Christianity, but in a deformed and deranged way, and the emergent quality of it is this destructive fire. Like it's actually more powerful because nobody got out there and said, somebody did say, let's let Malibu burn, but that was never like the explicit policy of the government of LA. It's just something that emerges after years of budget cuts, after years of self-hating ideologies like DEI, like climate apocalypse, like the homeless apocalypse. It's just emerges kind of deep within us, from some self-destructive part of us. So for me, if there's a foreign invasion, it came through the human psyche, not from outside of it.
Michael Shellenberger, how can people find you?
Public.news and at Shellenberger on X.
The best.
Thanks for having me, Tucker.
Thank you
really appreciate
very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can also hit the little bell icon and get a notification every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that too. Colonel, thanks for coming back. I wanted to speak to you at greater length, given that after our interview last week, a barrage of attacks against you, some of them sounded kind of serious, came out. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond, but also to clarify some of the points that your former employer is making about you. Johnny Moore, who runs your organization, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, was on television this weekend calling you a liar, suggesting that anyone who criticizes his group is pro-Hamas, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just going to go through some of the claims against you because you're making some significant statements that will, I think, color people's understanding of what's happening in Gaza. And so I think it's important to do this. So first, I just want to get to your separation from the Army. Was in January. You left the Army in March, if I'm remembering correctly. What did you do right after you left the U.S. Army after 25 years?
So right after my departure from the Army, I had no interests in politics or a second career. My interest was being a stay-at-home dad. I applied at Lowe's, and I was doing part-time Lowe's lawn and garden. Really enjoyed it.
What does that mean, Lowe's lawn and garden?
So working at the Lowe's hardware store in the lawn and garden section, giving recommendations on weed eaters, what plants to buy.
Really?
Yeah, I found it very therapeutic. By
the way, I love that. I'm not criticizing.
I was not looking for a life of stress. I was not looking for a life of attention. I have no social media whatsoever. I don't even have LinkedIn for employment purposes. My family and I enjoy a private life because we enjoy our lives together. I'm not really seeking anyone's approval. I'm not seeking clicks or follows or Instagram likes. When I first got out of the Army, I was keeping things pretty low key. I'm spending a lot of time with the family. My wife and I are both. My wife and I are co-den leaders together in my son's Cub Scout den. So we co-den lead for my son's Boy Scout den, which is phenomenal. We love it, and just all the things we're involved in. And after my years in service and the places I've been and the family moments that I've missed in life, I felt that the rest of my life should be committed to being a good father, raising a good family, because I think that's the next phase in life for me is contributing to the next generation. And for me, that's my son and the youth. So it's pretty much what I was doing. I was not seeking excitement.
So you get out after graduating West Point, 25 years in the U.S. Army, Green Beret, Lieutenant Colonel is your rank when you get out, if I'm remembering.
I was a senior ranking Lieutenant Colonel. Yep.
And then you wind up working at Lowe's Home and Garden Center.
Mm-hmm.
And leading your son's Boy Scout troop. It's pretty great. But that's not the picture of an activist, I would say. It's the opposite. So how did you wind up going to Gaza? You gave an abbreviated version of the story, but if you could just walk us through exactly how that happened.
Sure. And what I would like to remind people, and especially remind Mr. Johnny Moore, is that I did not work for GHF. It's very hard to actually find any information about GHF. I worked specifically for UG Solutions as a subcontractor for the security component of the greater Gaza Humanitarian Foundation mechanism.
Okay, so GHF is Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. That's the group about which it's very hard to find any real information.
It's very difficult.
That is distributing aid in the Gaza Strip. UG Solutions is the security contractor, providing security for them as they do that. Is that correct?
So the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, by their own accord, they claim to be a nonprofit.
Okay.
GHF is not really a thing in function. They have, again, there's so much that's unknown. It's a very shadowy, shady type of organization. Underneath GHF is a company called Safe Reach Solutions. They're another private security contracting firm. They're what's called a prime contract. They're for profit, absolutely for profit, money making business that's basically the contract. Underneath them, they have subcontracts, almost like building a home.
Okay.
You got the guy that's building the home.
Yeah,
you got all your subcontractors,
plumber, yeah,
right?
of course.
So UG Solutions is a subcontract to the building of this home.
Okay.
Specifically providing the armed security component. And no one else under the Safe Reach Solutions framework is authorized to be armed. So anytime you hear anything about who may have been shooting, it was either within Gaza, it's either the Israeli Defense Force or UG Solutions.
UG Solutions. Now, what is UG Solutions and who owns it and where's it based? And
so I got a phone call May 13th. They called me and they were asking, we're specifically looking for recently retired or out of service SOF veterans to join us on this mission to Gaza to do the distribution of humanitarian aid. I thought that perhaps this company was humanitarian aid focused. I could find very little on the company, but I did see that they were based in North Carolina. I saw that the founder of the company, his claim to fame was that he was a Green Beret at one point. He served as a Green Beret in the United States Army, and once he got out, he went into some entrepreneurship with a post-recovery alcohol hangover drink. I don't know what it was called, but it kind of gave me pause to think that where's the expertise, where's the experience, and I thought, okay, maybe he's just the guy.
An energy drink company?
Energy drink / it was advertised as the ultimate hangover beverage for the SOF operator that has a few many drinks the night before can get ready for the mission the next day. That was kind of his claim to fame, is that he even in his biography on the website for this company, he calls himself self-titled. I'm not calling him this. This is not me saying it. He calls himself a derelict. So it just kind of gave me pause that this is, and I thought, okay, maybe he's just the owner. Sometimes the owners don't necessarily contribute to the mission, but it did give me pause to think, how did all of this come together? How did all this come together so quickly in the hiring? And so they called me, and the question that I've had many a time that I often ask myself is, why did you do it then?
Yeah, that was my next question.
Yeah, why? And I remember I sat when they called me. I said, my answer is not yes. My answer is not no. I'd like to discuss it with my wife, and just consider the timing. And let me get back with you. And when I talked to my wife, I told her, I said, hey, going into this, full eyes wide open, this is going to be rough. It's probably going to be dangerous because the amount of what I see as like the lack of experience in planning to this magnitude. This is a seriously complex and seriously complicated mission that requires people that have deep experience in this. This is, again, as I've said, this is not a weekend job. This is not a, let's just go try this out. This requires depth of expertise, which was not present. So I talked to my wife about it. My wife said, well, you have done a lot of that. So you can contribute, you can help, you can be of value. What I really believed in was that if the United States was going to go into Gaza proclaiming that our method is going to replace the UN, we're going to do this now, that I wanted to be a part of what I thought at the time was truly an American ideal, an ideal of American exceptionalism, that America will go into the breach, into danger, and will help. That's what I really felt like. I really felt like that America was putting a good foot forward in this to say, like, hey, we respect our ally. We don't want to necessarily get involved or criticize the prosecution of the war, but we also realize and recognize a real need to end the starvation. So I really felt that being a part of it was something that was in line with American values. I really wanted to be a part of it.
So what does it mean to be safe in your own home? For a long time, that meant good locks and maybe an alarm system. That was enough, but they're not enough. And you know that because the news is filled with stories of people who thought they were protected and fell victim anyway. Simply Safe can help prevent you from becoming the next victim. Instead of just responding after somebody comes into your home, an intruder enters, Simply Safe can stop them from ever getting in the first place. It's proactive. It doesn't just react. It stops the problem before it starts. Simply Safe's cameras and live monitoring agents detect suspicious activity, and if somebody's lurking around your house, agents engage in real time. They activate spotlights. They can call the cops to get the intruder away from your house and prevent him from coming in. Not all security systems do that. The difference is enormous. That's why our team, along with 4 million other people in this country, trust Simply Safe. Monitoring plans start for about $1 a day. They include a 60-day money-back guarantee. Visit simplysafe.com/Tucker to claim 50% off a new system with professional monitoring, and your first month is free. That's simplysafe.com/Tucker. There is no safe like Simply Safe. Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, I'm going to go through some of the claims they're making, that you were fired. Were you fired?
I was not fired. Not only was I not fired, and I've brought some points to discuss to kind of lay out the pathway to my eventual termination in terms of me. You know, they call contract termination that I terminated my contract in writing. So in terms of contract termination, yes, my contract was terminated. I terminated it in writing.
You quit.
Essentially, yes, you could say that. I quit in protest, much like those before me, much like Jake Wood, former director of Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, who stepped down in protest. The second in charge of the entire contract for UD Solutions, who on the 27th of May, with a very scathing email to the leadership, to the CEO, stepped down in protest. One of the operations directors in the higher level company of Safe Reach Solutions stepped down in protest. I was not the first, and I was not the last. When I did, I quit in a way to where I wanted to stay involved in the mission. So I had coordinated to work with Safe Reach Solutions, again, the prime contract, to specifically be working on the humanitarian assistance team, because that would put me in a position to where I could then influence how operations on the sites ran. I would, as the humanitarian assistance team person that had leadership to take charge and to plan accordingly, I could be in charge of how rules of engagement, standard operating procedures, distribution process, organization and planning. And I felt that it was better for me to stay and be involved than to walk away and just leave no one at the wheel. So I did terminate my contract in writing on the 13th of June and provided it to the leadership in writing. And
so just to be absolutely clear, you were not fired.
I was not fired.
And you, I suppose, have the email resigning.
Not only do I have the email, I have the email chain. I have the actual letter itself that I wrote to them, and you can read it yourself. But this was provided in writing, and what I would continue to ask of UG Solutions and Gaza Humanitarian Foundation with Johnny Moore, who if he wants to say that I am a liar, I think that's
he has
unfair.
said that you're a liar.
He has said that I'm a liar, and that's unfortunate because he doesn't know me. I have opinions about him, but I don't know him either. But to say that I'm a liar, I served our country for 25 years in uniform, and what I would say is that America made me. Graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point. I served in the Army for 25 years, answered the call, not just once, twice, 3, 4 times, but 12, to fight in battle for the ideals of this nation. So for him to call me a liar, I think that all veterans and all Americans should take pause and think about who's calling me a liar. Someone that has spent his entire life self-serving with PR firms and selling Bibles and whatever else it is he does on the side.
Who is Johnny Moore? Do you know? Have you met him?
I have not met him. I didn't shake his hand and talk to him. I saw him when he came to visit very, very briefly. So what I would call a photo op.
So he does not work in Gaza?
Oh, absolutely not. I think he's only... So what's interesting is that this entire time that this operation's been going on now for, operating since the 26th of May till now, so breaking 70 days, he's only been there one time for a photo op. I find it appalling.
Wait, he doesn't work out of Gaza?
Absolutely not.
Now, I should say we put in 3 interview requests for Johnny Moore.
He's not even in Israel.
Oh. So how is he running the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation?
From his flat in Virginia, I guess. I don't know. I don't know where he lives, but I know that he is not in Israel. He is not in Gaza. He doesn't have an act. So it's what it feels like to me is that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is a side project resume item for Mr. Johnny Moore. It's not something that he's dedicated to, and it's not something that he has the expertise and the acumen to understand how to run.
Does he have any background in distributing humanitarian relief that you know of?
No. And what's important to understand is that going with a missionary organization to somewhere and distributing some meals or providing, religious support, that isn't humanitarian assistance. Humanitarian assistance is an operation. It's a very complex
Keeping 2 million
operation.
people from starving to death is different from...
It's not just food. It's water, medical, veterinarian services to make sure that we don't have a rabid animal population.
Right.
It's so many things that the experts within the United Nations that are educated, that spend their lives to become experts in, are very, very, very good at doing. So to think that we can just take that on and do it it's a very arrogant way of looking at this problem.
So Johnny Moore has no background in this. He's not there. I just saw him interviewed on Fox News, and he suggested you and everyone else who's criticized the operations of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation are pro-Hamas. Are you pro-Hamas?
I am not pro-Hamas.
That's a pretty heavy charge. I mean, Hamas is a designated terror organization.
Yes, I mean that is a heavy charge to lay on somebody from such from an individual that carries such little weight.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like the Christian response to criticism to me, but what do I know?
Well, I would say on his appearance on Fox, in just the short time I've been doing this with no PR firm and no polished background, I was a soldier. And after I was a soldier, I worked a blue collar job, and I call myself a husband and a father. I don't call myself by any other name. And since this story has broke from Hollywood to Bollywood, polar bears to penguins, people want this story because it's the truth, not because of me, because the world wants to hear the truth for once.
It's interesting, though. I mean, the forces against you organized immediately, and I mean, they had a press conference attacking you.
They did.
And during that press conference, which I watched, they didn't respond to not one of the allegations you made about their conduct in Gaza, not one.
No.
Instead, it was a litany of attacks on you. So I just want to continue to go through some of them
Absolutely,
to get
please.
your response. So the most damaging, from my perspective, by far, was the fact, and they showed the signal messages, that you had written complimentary texts to the management of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. At the time, you now say you were dissatisfied with their conduct. Did you write those texts, and if so, why?
So those text messages that they had captured out of Signal Snapchats were something called impact statements. Those from me, those weren't to the leadership of GHF, nor were they to the leadership of Safe Reach Solutions. Those were specifically to the Americans on contract under UG Solutions specifically. That is who I worked for and who I worked for only. The chief operations officer of UG Solutions, who was Ford at the time, directed me in writing. Directed me in writing to daily create these impact statements to include a photo and something positive. At that point, the contractors were really run down. We were running 24 to 48 hours. There was very little organization, and it was keen that everyone was becoming quickly unmotivated. So I was asked. So I did send out a picture once from one of the days we were there. That was a that was a nice photo of a boy who was happy. And I think it's, as a leader, which I am, though I was not in a direct leader position there in the beginning, I was promoted to one, but leaders don't gripe down. Leaders gripe up. As a leader, did I make my issues and my complaints and my dissatisfaction absolutely known to the leadership directly in writing and in verbal? Absolutely. But the contractors that are there that are doing everything they can to the best of their ability with a complete lack of information. And I will also say that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has set them up for failure with no legal protection. So my position in that was that I want to contribute to the mission and the men. And my gripes and my issues are with the leadership.
Okay.
I was directed to do that.
Here's a depressing but true statistic. Nearly half of American adults say they would suffer financial hardship within 6 months if they lost their primary income earner. That's a telling sign that people are living on the edge. Many of them, the economy's fragile. That's true for millions and millions of people. What do you do about it? Well, life insurance is one of the best ways to protect yourself from potential hardship. We recommend Policy Genius to get it. Policy Genius's plans offer life insurance policies starting at just $276 a year for $1 million in coverage. It feels complex to buy life insurance. They make it really easy. They help you compare different quotes from the market's top insurers so you get the lowest possible price, the best deal for your family. Policy Genius lays out all of your options really clearly. Coverage amounts, prices, terms, no guesswork at all. It's all very clear. They handle the questions, they handle the paperwork, they advocate for you throughout the process. So if you don't have life insurance because it seems too complex, they are the answer. Your family's future could be guaranteed to a great extent with Policy Genius. Go to policygenius.com/Tucker to compare free life insurance quotes from top companies, see how much you could save and to what extent you could protect your family. Policygenius.com/Tucker. You're saying that the text that they waved around at the press conference and that Johnny Moore...
Those are signal chats.
Signal chats.
Yes, sir.
Those were messages of encouragement to your men, not to the leadership of either organization.
I did not have any authorization nor did I have the capacity to send anything up and out. I had no contact information other than our signal chat groups for UG Solutions. I had no communication with anyone above that. There's my communiques went to the men. Now, they did go up to GHF from the COO of UG Solutions. He would send them up, but they did not come from me.
Okay, so you were not. So your position is you were not complimenting the conduct of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. You were saying to the guys providing security for this benighted operation that they're doing their best. Keep going, guys.
And for the most part, the 277 up to 314 men on contract, and I say men because they all are men. There were no females on the contract, no women on the contract. But so I use that term specifically. But the men on the contract, majority are veterans, combat veterans, and they felt that they were doing the right thing. The lack of leadership and guidance is what has led to where we are now. In fact, not just a lack of guidance, but the guidance of do what the IDF do. So not the lack of guidance, but the giving of just completely unethical and immoral guidance. That's not how the United States, we don't follow other people's lead. We set the standard.
So that raises the question that I'm going to ask you in just a moment, which is like, who's working for whom here and where's the money come from? But first, let me get to one last criticism of you, which was that you weren't even in the field very often. That's what they're claiming.
Yeah, and that's both disappointing and surprising because every photo that they put in that PowerPoint to show different things are pictures that I took on location. I was on a distribution site in Gaza every day. 24th of May, mid SDS1, and I brought these for you so you can look at them there.
Yep.
Every single day is a photo of me or a photo taken by me that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation then used in their public releases.
You took all these pictures?
All of the photos that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation released publicly until the 13th of June were taken by me.
Okay. Well, I guess that pretty much proves your point, doesn't it?
I was not only there, I was there when others were not. Case in point, we had, and you may find this story amusing, we had 30 Palestinian volunteers, local workers. So Palestinians that worked with us on the sites. In a lot of the photos, they're the ones that you see with the blue vests. And they were there to work with us to help with communication, to help, they're from the local population, to help with the crowd as much as they could. And they were brought onto the location, but GHF and SRS hadn't budgeted the money to feed them. So for a foundation that's supposed to be feeding people, thus far they've proven that they can't even feed their own employees. So myself and one of the humanitarian team workers who works for SRS, there was nothing else we could do because it was Shabbat and everything was closed in Israel. The only thing open was Domino's Pizza. So we ordered 32 Domino's pizzas.
From where? There's a Domino's in Gaza?
In Israel.
Oh.
In the Israeli side. And we went to go pick them up, and then with an armored vehicle, with armored personnel, myself and 2 others, armed, we delivered Domino's Pizza to Security Distribution Site 1 so that the local Gazan workers, or the local Palestinian workers, could eat that night, because GHF and SRS had no plan in place to feed our local Palestinian workforce. We delivered them pizza. I would also like to add that we did it in less than 30 minutes.
I hope they tipped you. So I think to my satisfaction, you've batted down the 3 main claims they made against you, but those are not the only claims. I don't know if Gaza Humanitarian Foundation or Johnny Moore is saying this directly, but your family's been attacked extensively.
Yes.
Since you told your story. Where's that coming from, and what's your reaction to it?
I think that there's a lot of attacks and or hate against my service record. That
were you honorably discharged?
Not only was I honorably discharged, I was honorably discharged under what's called a 100% combat related special compensation, which is rare. So in the military, when you retire, there's the VA process, separate process. Everybody can apply to that. Through the military, through DOD, there's the combat-related special compensation process, to where if what you've endured is directly as a result of combat, you can have a further special compensation to where not only am I a 100% totally and permanently disabled U.S. Army veteran, honorably discharged with honors, the Army has also credentialed me with 100% combat-related special compensation, meaning that my injuries and wounds afford me to where none of my income is taxed because of the sacrifice I made for this country.
And you were, commended and awarded a Medal for Bravery, at least once. So what's the criticism exactly of your service record?
So what I think is, so individuals who think that they know me, who don't. Again, all of these people that have attacked my family and I, we think it's, we find it amusing because they all do it from behind a keyboard, from behind some Twitter handle. No one's come on the record. Here I am on the record. My name, my reputation, my life. You can find me on the internet. I'm here. But people that choose to attack me do it behind a pseudonym or behind their keyboard. If America thinks that anybody should trust that, I don't think most Americans do. And the attacks I've had is that, of course he's never seen anything that brutal before because he was SF, he never saw combat. He didn't command a special forces company. And what I would like to say to people out there that think otherwise, not only did I command a special forces company in 3rd Special Forces Group, 1st Battalion, I was also the battalion's executive officer and deployed that entire battalion to combat. I was then offered a 2nd command to command the United States Army Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape School. So not only did I command a Special Forces Operational Combat Unit, I also commanded the United States Army's SEER School at Fort Bragg. So for anybody that wants to say that, he commanded here and didn't command that, you can FOIA my DD-214 and you can read it.
I'm a little confused though. What exactly did you do wrong? Why? And they attacked your marriage. They attacked your wife.
Yeah.
Your service record. There's no evidence that any of it's true. I've looked into all of it. They're lies. At least that's my conclusion. But what exactly is your crime? What did you do wrong?
So people would, in the United States Army, to make it to the rank of lieutenant colonel, people talk about colonel, general officer. Those are all nominative. Those are like icing on the cake. The golden pen, the golden watch, if you will, is 05, lieutenant colonel, command select, battalion command. And I commanded a battalion, an operational battalion that deployed. For people to say that, oh, well, he commanded a this battalion instead of that battalion, coming from people that have never commanded. These individuals that bash me online never held a command in their entire lives.
But why are they bashing you in the first place? I don't understand. So here's the story you just told. You get out, long lifetime, 25 years, distinguished career, highest level, and then you work at Lowe's Home and Garden Center and run a Cub Scout troop. And then you decide you're going to go over and try and pass out food to starving people. And then you decide what they're doing is immoral and you say so. I mean, those all seem like the right thing to do. I don't really know, where's your crime exactly? Is it you criticize the behavior of a company that's serving a foreign government and that makes you a criminal? Or like, why are you being attacked? I don't really get it.
I think that the criticism of something that is very lucrative when it comes to money. So I would portend, although I have no proof because I have no way of knowing this. I don't even know. I haven't even seen the posts myself. And to be quite honest, they're clowns. My family members have looked at them and they're all under, I think one guy calls himself Green Beret nap time. Oh yeah, I'm really going to lose sleep over what that guy thinks of me. So part of it is ignorance. People who haven't been there think they know because of what they heard from their buddies who also haven't been there. To the men that are there, mark my words, because I have lived it. When they come home and the adrenaline wears off and the $1,380 a day stops and life goes back to normal, and you have to look at your children and you have to look at your wife and you have to look at yourself in the mirror, it's going to come to you. And when that day comes, you're going to want to tell the truth. I've seen it. I was on site with these men where they see things and they're like, what are we doing? That's not right. That shouldn't be. And it's easy to ignore it when you're in Gaza, where seemingly people don't care, where you can report 30 deaths outside of a distribution site and have Johnny Moore say it didn't happen and get away with it. It's criminal.
Well, here's a story you probably haven't heard a lot about. The Chinese mafia is exploiting rural America to create a drug empire. This is not available on cable news. The network's not telling you about this, but it's totally real. Communist-affiliated drug gangs destroying parts of the United States, the parts that Washington ignores, to sell drugs, laundering money, and building a black market network inside this country's most beautiful but least served areas. We've got a brand new documentary on this. It's called High Crimes, the Chinese Mafia Takeover of Rural America. It's available now on tuckercarlson.com. It's excellent. The purchase of churches and schools to aid the operation, the jerry-rigging of power boxes to steal electricity, foreign pesticides, collusion with the Mexican cartels. It's unbelievable. By the way, one of the drug houses is like walking distance from my house. I didn't know that. It's a layered and fascinating story. Head to tuckercarlson.com to watch now. We think you'll love it. Johnny Moore said it didn't happen?
Johnny Moore has seemed to deflect every instance of, and again, what I find interesting is that the people that are coming out and speaking to the atrocities aren't Hamas, doctors, surgeons, Americans.
But Johnny Moore says they're pro-Hamas.
Oh yeah, anybody that has anything critical to say of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation automatically becomes labeled by Mr. Johnny Moore as Hamas. And that is dangerous. This is not the 1950s where, I'm a patriotic American.
Well, didn't you spend like decades fighting radical Islam with a rifle?
Spent decades fighting radical Islam, from grassroots to long entrenched radical Islam in the Moral Islamic Liberation Front in Southeast Asia. New radical Islam in the Middle East is a different flavor than the old entrenched grassroots radical Islam in Southeast Asia. And I have been a part of both.
So how does it feel to be written off as a Hamas supporter?
Me?
Yeah.
If it came from anybody that I held to be credible, maybe I would care. But I mean, who is Johnny Moore? I mean, I think yesterday when he was on Fox, it made my heart warm that you could hear outside of the Fox studio the protesting. In fact, the host said, we have some people outside exercising their constitutional rights, and yes, continue the protest. Go to his house and protest, because he is lying to the American people. And it's really sad. So if Mr. Johnny Moore wants to call me Hamas or call me a name or say that I don't know what I'm doing or say that I'm a liar, it matters not to me, because the American people know better. Show us your books, Johnny. Show us where the money comes from.
So what do you know? I know you made it clear that you didn't work for Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, but you worked providing security for them through a couple of different layers. But where does their money come from?
I don't know. And what's appalling to me is that exact same question you asked, sir, is the same question that every member of Congress that I spoke to over the last 2 weeks has asked me.
You've made the point and you did the math on it, that they are not feeding the population of Gaza, despite what they say. And they can't, because they don't have enough distribution centers. They've got 3 working distribution centers in a country of over 2 million people. So that just doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But they are bringing in truckloads of food. Who's paying for that? I mean, there's money here, right?
There's money. There's a lot of it.
And there's no indication of where it's coming from at all.
No indication. The only indication anyone has, to include, again, not just lonely old peon me, but Congress. Our United States Congress has no idea where the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's money comes from, other than the $30 million that came through the State Department last month.
Who do they work for? Do we know?
Don't know.
So, I mean, Gaza is controlled by the Israeli military. In fact, the Prime Minister of Israel just announced 20 minutes ago that the Israeli military is now going to occupy all of Gaza. So they must work for the IDF. I mean, do you think that they do?
So in terms of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation at that level, that high level, I can't say. I would think that there's probably a higher entity. Now, Safe Reach Solutions, which is the actual contract mechanism, like the actual the execution of the contract, does answer to, and the client is the IDF. And that was told directly to me, looking at me in my face by the
So they're the
operations
contractor that provides security, or everything else as well?
For SRS?
Yeah.
So SRS, one of the subcontractors is UG Solutions for Security.
Right.
One of the subcontractors is another company called Arkel out of Louisiana. It's very hard to find anything about them. They provide the trucking and the driving. And then there's another company called LMCC underneath SRS that's an Israeli company that provides the construction materials for the sites.
Okay, so Safe Reach Solutions is the contractor that handles like all the details for passing out aid, from building the facilities to providing men with guns to protect them.
SRS is what most people would think GHF would be doing.
Right, exactly.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and they work for the IDF.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is an IDF operation.
I mean, the way I would describe it is that the United States is providing a humanitarian assistance mechanism that is not providing food nor water nor assistance. What I would call is an appendage of the Israeli Defense Force. So if you consider the combat operations that have been going on in southern Gaza, in any combat operation, you have an offensive force and you have a sustainment force. You have a shaping force. If the activated combat reserve units in the south are the combat component conducting offensive operations, SRS, thereby Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, I would call shaping operation number 1. Displace the population, move the population, allow for phase 2, the ending of Operation Gideon's Chariots. That just ended last night. That started when we got there, the day after we got into country.
What was the purpose of that operation?
To clear the entire central portion of the enclave.
Of Gaza?
Yes. From what's called the Monologue corridor, which runs east to west just north of the sites, through Rafah, Mawasi, Khan Yunis, Barish, up to the Netzarim corridor. That was the objective of Operation Gideon's Chariots, which as of last night came to an end. Highly criticized because they didn't accomplish that task entirely. But now they're shifting into the next phase, which from a military perspective if you are trying to absolutely destroy a nation, that's exactly what you would do. You conduct wide area security, you conduct offensive operations, you establish control, and then you occupy. And that's what they're doing.
What's happening in Gaza is often described as a war, and you said you heard and saw small arms fire, mortars, artillery barrages, but they were all coming from the IDF. Did you see counterfire? Were they fighting against an armed enemy? Was it actually a war? Did you ever see any Palestinians committing acts of violence when you were there?
In all the days that I was there, and again, GHF, who again, their lawyers and their press personnel have gone there for some photo shoots. I've been to every site. I've seen the IDF around every location. I've seen the IDF operational graphics and array of their battle forces. I've seen it with my own eyes. I have never, in the entire time that I was there at every site, seen an armed Palestinian.
Not one?
Not one.
So the artillery, the mortars, the small arms, I mean, they were not defending themselves.
No, sir. The IDF, again, I'd like to clarify in terms of the position that the IDF is in, the Israeli Defense Forces, the position that they've been put in the South is untenable, operationally unsound. And they shouldn't be. To have active, and I put that on GHF because when the IDF said, here are these sites, we put them in operational combat zones. That's why Jake Wood stepped down. Jake Wood on the 26th of May, day one, cut the ribbon, yellow shovel or golden shovel. Here we go. Supposed to give us a big pep talk. He stepped down.
And who is he exactly?
Jake Wood was the previous Johnny Moore, if you will. He was the guy in charge of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation that as soon as this thing kicked off, we're going live. He stepped down and then members...
Has he ever explained why he stepped down?
I have not. I've never met the man. I don't know much about him other than when we were about to kick the whole thing off, there was going to be this, kind of this pep talk, great, go forth and do great things. And it was, hey, pep talk's canceled because he stepped down. It was it left kind of a lot of us just thinking, what is this?
So this all starts, you were there from the very beginning. There are almost 300, a little over 300 American contractors providing security. When you start to see the Israeli military shooting unarmed people, including children, does anyone talk about this at night? Like, I can't believe what we're watching.
Yes. And in fact, in some of the videos that have been taken, that I've taken, and I think it's another interesting story to go down how the videos got released because UG Solutions released them themselves, which was ironic. But in one of those videos, I'm walking and one of the other contractors with me says, it shouldn't be this way. It didn't have to be this way. We didn't need to do this. And what he's talking about is the fact that the Palestinian crowd was calm and controlled and they were leaving.
We held off.
Yeah, what's wrong?
No, I didn't want it to get to that.
I know. When you're trying to push thousands of people through a very small exit, it doesn't happen quickly. So as they're leaving, UG Solutions personnel following the lead of that's what the IDF do. Spraying with pepper spray, stun grenades, warning shots. This contractor, he's walking next to me and he says clearly, it's in the conversation of the video, it shouldn't be this way. We shouldn't be doing this. It didn't have to be this way. And I say to him in the video, like, hey, because he was one of the leaders of the mobile team. He wasn't in charge on site. So he was just he didn't have the authority. But I was like, hey, you did it. He did a very good job of maintaining his composure. And I said, hey, you did a good job. This isn't on you. You did what you could. But people recognize it. And people are coming forward. There are a number of, at least close to a dozen now, of other contractors that have either come out off the record and some that will soon, that are multiple coming on the record. So the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and Safe Reach Solutions and UG Solutions, they can bash me, bury me, make fun of me all they want. It doesn't bother me. I've got skin in this game, but what they think bothers me not. Others are coming behind me. Is GHF going to call everybody a liar? Are they going to call everybody a disgruntled employee? Was I disgruntled?
Everybody a Hamas supporter?
Everybody's a Hamas supporter. All of these American veterans that raised their right hand to serve our country in uniform for decades when Johnny Moore didn't serve his country a day. He's going to call us all Hamas. He's going to call us all liars. We're all disgruntled employees. So put that on me. Put it all on me. I support Hamas. Say it. I'm a horrible employee. I didn't perform. Say your worst, because those that are coming behind me, you going to say that about them too? You can't. And the truth is coming.
What did you think of the IDF? Did you deal with them when you were there?
I did. The Israeli Defense Forces that were specifically activated to conduct operations in the south, in Gaza, were reserves.
Right.
Reserves called forth rapidly. So there wasn't a lot of training. Almost none. I think they probably got even less training than the UG Solutions guys did before they went in, and that's pretty abhorrent. Not disciplined, not professional soldiers. It's not what they do. Not impressed with their proficiency and performance, because, granted, as a reserve force that's called up and immediately put into combat, when the United States calls up reserve forces, we put them through an extensive preparation.
For sure.
Absolutely. They're, because it's not their profession. These soldiers didn't get that, and they were thrown into the fire by the Israeli government into a precarious, untenable situation that no army should have to deal with. You should not put food distribution sites in an active combat area.
Were their officers aware of the fact that they were shooting kids?
I believe that they were all aware, and I think that at the lower level. And it's starting to come out now. Every day there are more and more IDF soldiers that are returning home. Again, as I said, when these contractors come home and the adrenaline's gone and you're not in the situation anymore, and you have to look yourself in the mirror, and those things come back to you that we shouldn't have done that. We shouldn't have allowed that. Same thing that's happening with these IDF soldiers. They're reservists. They're in there for 90 days. They come home. Almost like clockwork, as they come out of the field and they decompress, they have to look at themselves in the mirror. When you're in there and you're in war, and the fog and friction of war alter your compass, alter your azimuth, your moral compass. And when you step back into society where there's expectations of civilization and that moral compass straightens up again, there's a lot to answer for. It's happening. A lot of the IDF that are there that are serving are coming out and saying, like, yes, we were ordered to shoot the children. We were ordered to shoot
by their officers.
By their officers, by their units.
You mentioned a food distribution site where there were 30 dead bodies.
That was, it was 20.
20.
Yes, that was secure distribution site number 3 on the 16th of July.
How do you kill 20 people? Was there like a revolt of the people? Do they go after the IDF, or how does that happen?
So
that's a lot of people.
I was not physically there. However, what GHF put out in their press release was that it was a stampede. It wasn't away from the site. It wasn't near the site. It was on the site. It was smack dab in the middle of the distribution site where starving human beings are collecting food. It was a stampede. That stampede killed 20 people. Now, they say that one was stabbed. I've never seen any documentation of that, but 20 were killed.
So if you fire live ammo, was there live ammo being fired?
Absolutely. As quote unquote, again, the lawyer for UG Solutions who spoke against me said that Aguilar is a liar. Though our forces may shoot warning shots at their feet and over their heads, we don't shoot at them. Well, thank you, Mr. Contract Attorney, for admitting to a war crime on the record. Because shooting at an unarmed population, targeting, shooting at them, shooting in their direction intentionally to control them, is specifically prohibited in the protocols of the Geneva Convention. So thank you, Mr. Attorney, for putting that on the record.
When people get shot to death or trampled at a distribution site, what happens to the bodies? Does Gaza Humanitarian Foundation bury the bodies?
Oh, no. No, Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, Safe Reach Solutions, UG Solutions, we don't have anything to do with it. The IDF will come in, collect up the bodies, and or the IDF will allow the International Red Cross Red Crescent to come in and take the bodies, in this case, from site number 3 to the Al Nasser Hospital. And what I find interesting in that very instance that same day, July 16th, 20 people killed on Site 3. GHF even put it in a release, sadly to report that 20 Palestinians or 20 civilians were killed on site. Hamas did it. Hamas started the stampede. But then when the surgeons in Nasser Hospital said, we received 30 dead bodies 20 dead bodies from this site, IDF and GHF said they're lying. It's like, you just said that 20 people were killed on your site. Now the doctors are coming forward and saying, yes, we did receive 20 trampled dead bodies. And now you're saying they didn't?
How did Hamas trample the people to death?
The claim is that on site number 3 that day, Hamas incited a stampede.
How?
That is absolutely ludicrous. Site number 3 on the 28th of May. Site number 3 had a very similar situation. Site number 3 is, each site's kind of got its own flavor, if you will. Each site's kind of like its own arena. Site number 3, because it's right in the middle of, between site number 2 and an IDF base, it's very canalized when the foot traffic from the Morag corridor comes south into the site. It's very congested. It's very tight. The exit is very tight, and the exit is also very constrained with debris, just mounds of rubble. So when the people are leaving, there's really nowhere for them to go except continuing to be pushed through this small exit. It is the perfect setting for a stampede of human beings. It's if it was created for that. On the 28th of May, site number 3.
Bottleneck.
It is a bottleneck surrounded by razor wire and surrounded by fighting positions where IDF have machine guns.
And they're firing live rounds.
When you hear UG Solutions or anyone talk about a quote unquote warning shot, there's no such thing as a warning shot.
I've never heard of that before. What does that mean?
The United States military doesn't use it because firing a bullet is firing a bullet. Escalation of force would be, for an example, if I was in Baghdad as a combatant, an actual under Title 10 authority under the United States Constitution, fighting as a belligerent in war. I can't just walk up to somebody and be like, oh, that looks like Al-Qaeda, I'm going to shoot him. There has to be a threat. And the process of that threat, where unless you are engaged in active combat, you feel a threat, it's typically you have signage like, hey, don't go past this point, right? Then you shout, show, and then you shoot. And when you shoot to kill. You're not shooting a warning shot. Warning shot is such a misnomer. It's not a thing. Bullets are
these
bullets.
5.56 rounds?
They are not only 5.56 rounds. They are 5.56 M855 green tip steel core armor piercing rounds.
Yep. So what's the lethal distance of a round like that fired flat? Like how far does it travel?
Oh, well, considering like if I was on an M4 range, I'm shooting for qualification, I'm shooting out to 300 meters at the furthest pop-up target. Maximum effective range with that M4 is out to 500, but out to 800 to 1,000 in terms of where the bullet travels with its velocity.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, very far.
So if you're firing thousands of rounds,
yes,
even if you're firing over people's heads, like where do those bullets go?
Where are those bullets going? So
what's the answer?
When UG Solutions says we fire towards the sea, the sea's a big place. And you know what the sea crashes into? A beach. And you know what's along that beach on the coastal road in Gaza? Hundreds of thousands of civilians. So when UG Solutions says that our men fire into the air or towards the beach, well, thank you again, Mr. Attorney, for just verifying to the world that you are shooting bullets into a crowd of unarmed civilians. Because what lines the entire coast from north to south of the Mediterranean Sea in Gaza? Thousands of human beings.
Have you ever, you had 12 deployments, so have you ever seen anything like that anywhere else?
I have never experienced, witnessed, been a part of anything that was that uncontrolled, undisciplined, barbaric, immature, and what I would call just a reckless endangerment. We're not, first of all, UGS contractors in Gaza are not belligerent combatants. We're there on a tourist visa. Tourists.
And
we have no
carried a firearm?
Fully automatic firearm.
Where'd you get the gun?
UG Solutions provided them to us from an Israeli company called IWI. It's an Israeli company that makes this weapon. All of our weapons, our shotguns, our pistols, our machine guns, our fully automatic rifles, all came from IWI.
So you land on a tourist visa and they hand you an automatic rifle.
And we didn't qualify on it either.
Really?
We did not qualify on our weapon system, which was a requirement in the contract, which is why I brought this up as a point, because zeroing your weapon, as you know, you calibrate the weapon to you.
Of course.
Qualifying is a whole nother stage. Once you zero the weapon and it's calibrated to you, you demonstrate your proficiency. Can I use this? It's even the most elite of military forces zero and qualify on any weapon that they use.
Immediately.
Immediately. It's the first thing you do. In fact, the contract itself, the contract even states that we must demonstrate proficiency and qualify on our weapon before we go into Gaza. No one, not one person, no one qualified on their weapon system.
So they just handed you a rifle and...
They handed us rifles, pistols, and machine guns, of which we didn't qualify on any of them.
Had you operated those specific weapons before?
No, I mean, very few people. I mean, maybe there are a couple guys that are enthusiasts within, that have rifles that may have an IWI rifle. I'd never heard of it. I don't own one, but no.
Oh, these were actually manufactured by IWI.
Manufactured, not just given to us by IWI. These are IWI rifles made in Israel.
You never operated that kind of rifle before?
I would say the majority, probably very, 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 very few, if any, of the contractors had ever operated that weapon.
Wild.
I had never even seen one. I wasn't even aware
of it. Handed it to you.
Gave it to me, and when they first handed it to me, and I looked at it, and the options were safe, single, fully automatic. I was like, "Whoa, this is serious." Not even the United States Army infantry gives weapons that are fully automatic for humanitarian assistance.
Loaded, they give you ammunition as well.
210 rounds of M855 green tip steel core armor penetrating ammunition.
Why green tip ammo?
I really don't. Well, again, the Israelis gave us that.
But is there a reason?
You wouldn't give someone that type of ammunition in a very closed, condensed space like that unless you either had no regard for human life, civilian human life, or you were intentionally trying to kill civilians at distance. It's when we were given that ammunition, I thought it was absurd. I was like, I thought we were going into Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid, and we had a weapon only to defend ourselves against an imminent threat of death, meaning I don't pull that trigger, not a warning shot, not a celebratory shot. I do not pull that trigger unless I am directly threatened with the imminent threat of death. So why are you giving me steel core armor penetrating, I wouldn't say armor piercing, but armor penetrating ammunition that can shoot through sand berms like a hot knife through butter? What are we doing? Well, that's what the IDF gave us. That's what we're going to use. And I'm like, yeah, but aren't we paying for it? It's part of the contract, right? We're paying for it. Can't we dictate what we buy? Well, this is all they have. And I'm like, that's not true. That's entirely not true.
So you passed out food. Your job was to provide security at sites where they were passing out food, but you have said that they didn't pass out water because it was too expensive. How does that work exactly? Is there a lot of water in Gaza? And the food you're passing out requires water to cook it, right? It was like dried beans and corn and stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like your kid turns 16 and they walk outside and you got the big bow on the Pontiac and it's like, happy birthday. And you give them the keys and it's got no gas in it. Real jerk move, right? So to give people food that requires water to cook it and then give them no water. And in order to get to the food, they have to walk 8 kilometers and then walk 8 kilometers back to their house to cook it. And you give them no water. It's so inhumane and evil that it can only be deliberate.
Is there a lot of water in Gaza?
There's none. I mean, other than cisterns from rainwater, remnants of old wells that may be still operating at a very low level. But in terms of municipal type water, fresh water, tap water, absolutely not.
So is anyone else bringing water into Gaza?
No.
No water?
No. That's why if you saw on the news just today, and this is not just in Western media, this is in Israeli news, N12, Channel 13. I watch all the Israeli breaking news on my phone. I'm just into it now. And the new, or the now realized danger is that they're critically low and running out of water, which should not surprise anybody. How would they be getting it? The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation isn't providing any.
Did you bring this up?
We brought this up on the very first day, and not just myself, other contractors, other people that have a conscience that were like, okay, I see this child or this woman breaking into a box of food, and it's all dried goods, no prepared goods, all dried goods that require water to make, that require effort to make. There's no water. And we asked that. And we were told, well, the IDF said no to water. Well, who's in charge here? I mean, I thought we were doing the humanitarian aid. Well, we are, but we're not going to push back on it because water would be 3 times more expensive per truckload than we can bring in, equal to that of 3 trucks of food. And more food is better than limiting that for water. And I'm like, I think someone that was actually educated in humanitarian assistance and providing humanitarian aid, and someone that was a nutritionist that was well-versed in feeding people, would probably disagree with that. I would disagree with that. Water? In the United States Army, if you're in the field and conducting combat operations, I mean, not having water is a sin. You don't go without water. So us providing no water for food that has to be cooked with water is almost like a slap in the face. It's dehumanizing.
Has Johnny Moore addressed this?
No, because Johnny Moore won't answer any questions. And to be fair, I don't think he doesn't answer it because he's a bad guy. I think he doesn't answer it because he doesn't know. He knows nothing.
I'd be willing to take, I think it's a very charitable view. When I heard him suggest that anyone who criticizes him and his, quote, life-saving work is working for Hamas, that's when I began to wonder if he was really a good guy. Because good people don't immediately deflect in that way and accuse their critics of working for a terror group. There are legitimate questions. You don't have to be a Hamas sympathizer to ask.
Yeah, I think that's
delivering enough water.
I think that's very inflammatory and bombastic to think that anyone that would speak out against seeing travesty and dehumanization is automatically labeled as Hamas because you don't agree with his perception.
Well, especially if he's an American Army colonel from San Antonio who spent 25 years fighting radical Islam. I think it's a little much.
Whose wife served in the military.
Yeah.
Whose parents served in the military.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so I don't, I think that others can judge whether Johnny Moore is a good guy, but I don't think he gets the presumption of good guyness after he says something like that. That'd be my position on that.
I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt.
No, I think, and bless you for it. You're a better man
Never
than I.
met him.
So you brought this up. They
Yes.
said it's too expensive.
Too expensive.
And the IDF doesn't want the Gazans to have water, so no water for them.
Yeah, when there wasn't a cooperative discourse with the IDF in terms of how many trucks, how much food, which sites, which times, it was directed and there was no conversation. It was, you will deliver to this site during these times, these many trucks, you will distribute this much at this time, and that is it.
So the IDF is totally in charge, it sounds, operationally.
Completely. The IDF get to dictate when we go in because they control access into Gaza. So when all of our trucks get loaded, we can't go into Gaza proper from Karim Shalom until the IDF say it's okay. Sometimes they don't let us in.
You worked with the IDF on and off over your career. Because,
I have in various.
Yeah. What did you think of the IDF when you're in the Army?
Overall, as holistically, not impressed. Now, there are some units within the IDF, within the Israeli Defense Force and with the Israeli Ministry of Defense that are good.
Yes.
Professional, good, best of the best.
Famous.
Writ large, not impressed.
Interesting.
And
Why?
not because necessarily that they're bad soldiers, but it's leadership, poor training, poor equipment. This idea that and part of it is that when you think about the Israeli Defense Force, they're not the Israeli military structure doesn't call themselves an army or a navy or an air force. They're Israeli Defense Force. They defend Israel.
Yes.
They're not expeditionary. They're not like the United States Army that has to train to fight wars overseas. They defend within. And for the most part, they're fighting an enemy now at this point that are women and children and old men. It's not hard to defeat and annihilate an enemy when your enemy, the majority of them are under the age of 15.
It's easy to shoot kids.
It's almost, you have to have a sense of cognitive dissonance to do it. You almost have to separate yourself from the situation, which is why I've said many of these contractors, if they have a conscience, which I think many of them do because they've served in the military and they know what right and wrong looks like, and in the IDF, that when that separation of that cognitive dissonance between your morals and what you're doing comes back to you as a human, it hits hard. And in the coming days and weeks, as Operation Gideon's Chariots has ended, and the Israeli army has to refit into this restructuring for occupation, which is a whole new ballgame. I mean, occupational army, U.S. Army World War II, U.S. Army post-invasion of Iraq, that's when things get really nasty. That's when things get really gray. We think that things are complicated and complex now. Wait until you put an occupation army onto the streets of Gaza City.
So if you don't mind fleshing out the difference between what's going on now and a formal occupation.
So right now in the South, so consider if you're a combat force, infantry, armor, tanks, artillery. You're maneuvering against an enemy. Or not. In this case, I didn't see many enemy out there. I didn't see any enemy out there. When you're an army of occupation, you then become static. You become routine. You become identifiable. That's when counterinsurgency often resonates the most, is that, so right now, if I were Hamas, while the active war is going on, the offensive, I'm laying low. I'm hiding. I'm going to come out and get killed. When the occupation begins, that's when the insurgency presents itself in armed violence.
Yeah, that's when you have permanent bases.
It's going to get
blown up,
violent, and it's going to get deadly. And more deadly. And if the United States doesn't set a firm tone of what's acceptable and what's not, no longer can we have this IDF do what you will and we'll play backup. No, we cannot. The president of the United States needs to set clear, firm expectations and boundaries with our ally. Because this occupation, two things will happen. One, it's going to become extremely violent, grotesquely violent. Markava tanks being blown up on the Salah ad-Din road going into Gaza. The Israelis won't like it. But then also, when forces begin to go into Gaza City and other people start to see the amount of starvation and destitute and destruction, it's going to bring the world to its knees. And it's not going to be a year from now. It's not going to be months from now. Days from now.
When the rest of the world sees what Gaza looks like, is that what you're saying?
Yes, because if you consider, so the Spaniards, the Jordanians, and the French have each gone in and dropped airdrop. Airdrop is ineffective because each aircraft you see flying over, pushing out bundles, that's only the equivalent of half of one truck. It's not much at all. Half of one truck only feeds a couple hundred people. One meal. Not to consider what hits the ground and explodes. Most of it doesn't make it to the ground safely. So, those airdrops were for show. For the first time in a long time, others besides the Israeli Defense Force Air Force have seen what Gaza looks like from above. And the Israeli government specifically said no media in the aircraft. But some of the crew on these aircraft, the Spaniards, the French, the Jordanians, saw that and went back to their governments and were like, this is beyond words. And I can attest to that.
Just from the air? It was obvious to them, the devastation?
So when they're conducting equipment drops, in this case, food pallet drops, it's at a lower altitude. It's not like it's from 10,000 feet in the air. It's like from a lower altitude, which you get a pretty good view of the ground from above. And the scale of devastation in Gaza, that not that I just, I'm not talking about someone that saw this from the outside or someone that saw pictures or someone that looked at a picture and assessed it. It was there, touched it, felt it, smelled it. And
what's it smell like?
So very, for those that have experienced it, the smell of death, human death, has a very unforgettable smell.
You mean like rotting bodies?
Rotting bodies, starvation, the body just breaking down. And when that's in mass, it's overwhelming. I smelled this same smell once in Baghdad during the 2006 timeframe, during the height of the sectarian violence, when Sunni and Shia were just slaughtering each other. And One of our jobs that we had to do during that time was on our patrols, we would take a truck and a trailer and we would load bodies. Many veterans have done this. This is recorded history. We would load with the Iraqi army. We would go through neighborhoods and load bodies because they had just been slaughtered. Families slaughtered. That smell.
You did that?
In terms of picking up the bodies?
Yeah.
Yeah. While in Baghdad in the height of sectarian violence during my very first deployment as a platoon leader, and many a veteran can attest to this because we had to do it. We would have to move through on our combat patrols. We would have to take army trucks and trailers with Iraqi army personnel to load up bodies because there were so many. That smell is something you never forget. In Gaza, standing on the berm of site number 4, looking north to Gaza City. So if you're standing on site number 4 and you're looking south, you see Barish and you see everything to the south towards the Egyptian border. If you're standing on the northern berm, you're looking at Gaza City, the apocalypse. It's the only thing I can describe it as. Well, in the evening when that coastal wind comes over the Mediterranean and sweeps through and that hits you in the face, it smells like death. And to that scale, mark my words, someone that's seen it, someone that's lived it, someone that's touched it, someone that's felt it. When the world gets a look at what's in Gaza City and Jabalia and southern Erez on the Gaza side of the border, the world will not tolerate it. So what I would say to every American leader, politics aside, put the politics aside. We need to be on the right side of history because our allies are close. Some of our, we say that Israel is one of our closest allies. Some of our closest allies, France, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, are all standing and we're not. That says something.
Have you brought this to the attention of American lawmakers?
I have, and some of them have taken action. Congressman Castro, I had a very good conversation with his staff and him. Senator Warnock, Senator Tillis, Senator Van Hollen.
What did Tillis say?
Well, Senator Tillis, as a Republican, his concern is because we have a large constituency of North Carolinians, veterans, who are in Gaza, armed, on a tourist visa, lied to, with no protections. That's his constituency. I'm one of his people. So, yeah, people need to take notice. This is not a political party line. This is humanity.
So when you go into Tillis's office, who's a very strong pro-Israel guy, big neocon, and you tell him this story, how does he treat you?
So we talked to his staff at his invite, his professional staff that gave notes to him. But every meeting I had with Congress, whether they were Republican or Democrat, when I sat down and I told them the truth of it, we have Americans, U.S. citizens, veterans that we put into Gaza, armed to stave off a hungry, starving population with no rules of engagement on a tourist visa. One of the staffers even spit out his coffee when I said it.
Explain the significance of being an armed combatant from a foreign country on a tourist visa. Why is that bad?
Well, anytime, imagine, if you will, if someone came from France to the United States to visit, just to see New York City, check out the sights, and they wanted to be here for a few days, so they would enter, blue passport, bloop, you go through, clear, get your little ticket. You're on a tourist visa. Imagine coming from France to go check out the Big Apple, and you're walking around with a fully automatic machine gun, a pistol, a shotgun, and armor-piercing rounds. That would be absurd. Now, would I continue to say what?
So in other words, you have no protection at all.
You have no legal protection. Not only do you not have any legal protection under the Israeli government, we're there under the good graces of just hoping that at some point some Israeli official doesn't see what we're doing and saying like, that's criminal. Right now, everybody's just like, just do it because nobody sees it. But man, I would call it, like back in the day, we're riding dirty. We don't have any legal protection.
And no rules of engagement. What do you mean by that?
With no rules of it. So I feel it would have been incumbent upon Safe Reach Solutions as the prime to issue a rules of engagement, but they did not. So a rules of engagement is something, and even the most elite units in the United States military get briefed on and rehearse a rules of engagement. That's what makes
what can you do under what circumstances and what can't you do?
That's right. Especially when it comes to pulling a trigger to shoot a bullet to kill a human, when all of those humans are unarmed civilians. That's something that throughout the history of the world that we, from the Battle of Jericho, I've been there. Wasn't in the Battle of Jericho, but I went to Jericho on my way out of Israel. From Jericho to what we're seeing now, the world has always had the notion of protecting and safeguarding the vulnerable, unarmed population. It's what the Geneva Convention and humanitarian law is based on. We've always done that. Why is it different
Except
now?
in the Book of Esther, where
Sure.
they're genocided, but whatever. Excuse me. Again, did the Americans you were with, like having, I don't know if there's beer for sale in Gaza, but whatever you do at night after a long day of watching civilians get shot at distribution centers, did anyone say, man, this is kind of nuts?
So the contractors that I mostly spent my time with, because remember, as soon as we got into country, I was promoted to be the Joint Tactical Operations Center team leader. So I had a small team who predominantly worked out of the Joint Tactical Operations Center. I had additional duties laid upon me by the leadership of UG Solutions in terms of taking pictures and, being this pseudo PR person because they had no one to do PR / this pseudo operations person. So
that's why you took all the pictures.
So taking all the pictures, I was told to do in writing. I didn't take that because it was a hobby. I had no intention of taking prior to getting there in my phone. I mean, I still had a flip phone before I went because I wanted to get a new one, so I could watch movies on the plane. In getting there, like the only pictures I had on my phone were like a few from some family stuff. Not a phone picture taker.
So all the pictures you showed me, the ones right here with the dates on them, and you basically took pictures every single day you were there. It looks like they're all timestamped. You were asked to take these by your employer? Told. Not asked.
Told. There's this email here from and I think it's funny when they say about my performance here is that so this is an email. I have this email here from Mr. John Corrigan, who is the Chief Operations Officer of UG Solutions. Pretty important job. Boss-ish. And this is back to the headquarters in North Carolina. To me, just a lonely old contractor. I'm not going to say the guy's name that he sent it to. Please add Tony, who's CC'd, to our headquarters distribution list. He produces the daily impact report that I've directed him to do, and he does all ground planning for movement for our team. Critical player to the operation. That was on June 2nd. Someone that's not a good performer, someone that was fired? On June 12th, the day before, UG Solutions apparently said that they fired me, which they did not. Tony, you have done a great job in taking photos and videos, which have been a tremendous asset to UG Solutions. Apologies if this has caused any consternation for you. We know that you are fully aligned with UG policies and are a member of the team. This is on the 12th of June. Fired me? No.
You resigned, what, the next day?
I already had my resignation typed up that day. What is important about this day on the 12th of June, which I think it would be funny if it wasn't so upsetting, is that all of the pictures that I took every day, go out into the field, take pictures, document it. Let's tell the truth. Well, the truth that I grew up with is the truth is the truth. You don't get to cherry pick the truth. So every picture, every video, everything I took, from the good to the bad to the indifferent, when I came back, I uploaded they established a Google Share Drive for me specifically every day. That was one of my tasks. Come back from a site, sit down at the computer, upload the photos and videos, and then wipe them from my phone. They didn't want me to have them.
Why didn't they want you to have them?
They didn't want anybody. So in the contract, they specifically state that any photos, written experience, pictures or video are the sole proprietary property of UG Solutions. How you own an idea or a thought, I don't know, but sure. So I'd upload them and then wipe them. Upload them and then wipe them. So I didn't have them. On the 11th of June, the Jerusalem Post, which I think is funny because they were also one of the ones that ran the Tony's a liar, which was, it's just absurd to think about it because that actual news outlet took one of my photos and used it on the front page of their magazine. It's on there. It's a picture of a boy holding a box of aid. And in fact, John Ackrey, who was on the press release that GHF did today, asked me if he could use that photo as part of his personal collection because he thought it was so compelling and impactful to tell the story of what was going on in Gaza. He called me on the phone. I don't even know who he was. And I said, yes, you can use it for your personal collection. So all of my pictures went into this share drive. That picture made it to the Jerusalem Post. I got blamed. Oh, you sent your picture out to the media. I was like, I didn't send a picture out to the media. I don't even have them. So I emailed the chief operations officer like, hey, John, can you clarify this? Because I'm kind of getting some heat. And he does. And he clarifies, hey, that he says, it wasn't you that did it. It was, I'll read it. So I'm not a good employee. Gentlemen, and this is to all the leadership of UG Solutions. Tony, you've done a great job of taking photos and videos, which have been an asset. We know you've kept those internal and point to point with me and me only. The issue we had is that one of our Israeli political folks at the highest level, who we believe had compartmentalized access to certain materials that we owned, that we agreed to share, turns out he accessed the photos and now he has them all. Well, we have told him to explicitly not share these. He has shared these with the media, and we have no control over the photos. We have since shut down access to only UG personnel. Apologies if this caused any consternation. We know you're fully aligned to policy. Bottom line, we attempted to fulfill a request from our Israeli partners, and they took advantage of us upon themselves without coordination to their government and higher headquarters, and now all of the media, meaning pictures and photos, are out. Funny is that days later when I got back to the United States, I got all of my videos and pictures back that I took from an Israeli citizen. Like, these people are clowns.
So they've made a bunch of specific allegations against you at a press conference and media appearances. It sounds like you can refute all or most of them with documentation, all of them. Are you going to sue them for slander? Because it sounds like slander.
Suing is so laborious. I really want all of this. I want the story to get out, and I want our government to take action so I can enjoy the pre-fall fishing. I'd like to get back to work at Lowe's.
You're going back to Lowe's Home and Garden.
Oh yeah. I like I said, it's therapeutic to not have to worry about so many issues and just help people,
Yes.
So, but again, to all these letters, UG Solutions and GHF may say, well, we still fired him. Two things I'd like to ask GHF. I would like the termination letter. I would like their firing letter. I want it. I want to frame it. I want to put it in my office as the worst employee of the month of the worst employer that I've ever worked for. Give it to me. Give me my termination letter if you fired me. You notice when they put up this slew of documents that they never provided a termination letter. Give it to me. Show us. I'd like to have it, actually. But this letter, I think, is really just tops the sundae with a nice cherry. This is from UG Solutions Corporate, from the COO back in. So they had a CEO stateside and they had a COO forward, kind of like a home and away team. I read this on Breaking Points, but I think it's appropriate for this. Dear Tony, as your engagement with UG Solutions concludes, we extend our gratitude for your contributions to our mission in Israel and Gaza. We appreciate your flexibility and adaptability throughout the deployment and your willingness to support the mission in a variety of ways. While your current assignment ends, please let us know if you are interested in future opportunities to work with UG Solutions. This is on the 24th of June. I left the next day. Does that sound like
No, it's
signed by the COO? So what this whole smear campaign sounds like to me is I'm the only person in their entire construct of a company that, one, has the depth of knowledge that I have of what actually happened and what's going on, but two, can corroborate as an eyewitness, as a human being, as a carbon-based life form, having been on the ground in Gaza, to corroborate all of the video of the guy shooting and then saying, yeehaw, hell yeah, you think you got one? That was in that drive that got released to the Israeli government. It's out there. There's no denying
I
it.
watched it.
South from Conway over.
Yeah, so
What happened to the boy, Amir?
yes, Amir. Interesting.
Who was apparently murdered, and then your former employers trotted out a picture claiming he was still alive, but it was a different person.
Yeah.
Do we know anything about what happened to his body? Whether his family knows where?
Yeah, so
he was killed?
Johnny Moore, who claims to be this evangelical, last time I checked, we should know every hair on one's head. God does. In their smear package of information, they said, Mr. Aguilar claims that this young boy was killed on the site. Well, here's a picture of him 2 days later. The picture that they used of Amir 2 days later, and also the pictures of Amir, are pictures that I took. They used photos that I took to discredit photos that I took. You can't even wrap your head around it. So, the picture here that they said is Amir is on the 1st of June at site number 4, timestamped in my phone because I have the original. Site number 4 and site number 2 are 26 kilometers away through a combat zone that no civilian can traverse between the two. So how did Amir get from site 2 on the 28th of May to site 4 on the 1st of June? Well, he didn't. 1, because he's dead. 2, because it would have been impossible unless somewhere in Gaza they now have the ability to Star Trek beam people to another location. It would have been impossible.
Do we know anything about his family or how that was?
So they questioned it, right? So an NGO reached out to me after the story broke and they said, do you happen to know what site and what day? Well, I do know exactly what site, exactly what day. I even know exactly what time. And I provided that information to them. They immediately energized their NGO network within Gaza to begin looking, backtracking. Nasser Hospital, backtracking, asking, taking the picture around, kind of like old on the milk carton days.
Yes.
And they found his mother, his stepmother. His mother and father had both been killed. His father was killed in an Israeli airstrike. His mother had been killed. His stepmother has been looking for him since the 28th of May. And that photo that I took of him is the last she'd seen him alive. She now has this photo. I've seen her. I actually, yesterday, I had the real special opportunity. I got to talk to her on the phone with a translator. She and I Zoomed together, and she asked me, what did he say? What did he look like? How was he? And I just told her, I was like, he's a beautiful boy. Happy. Real strong spirit. And she's like, do you think I'll ever find him? And this isn't just me saying this and it's non-verifiable. I talked to her on a interview with an activist group where there were hundreds watching, so everybody can verify this. How hard it is to tell a mother that her son is dead.
He was killed in May and yesterday was August and she hasn't seen him.
Nothing. She's been looking for him. Now, Johnny Moore would say, that's Hamas propaganda. So, Tony Aguilar, who has no contacts really anywhere, who's back in the United States, managed to orchestrate this Hamas kabuki theater facade simply to discredit the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. How arrogant must you be? This is a Christian? This is a Christian evangelist? This boy was killed. And instead of accepting what we can do to change it, I have a great recommendation. Let's not put humanitarian aid food distribution sites in the middle of combat zones. That would be a great start. to not killing innocent people, to include, I thought, and again, confirmation. She even said, Amir. She's like, I've been looking for Amir. I didn't make this up. I touched this boy. I looked him in the eyes. And what? I thought he was maybe 6 or 7. He was 10. That's how emaciated he is.
Don't put food distribution centers in the middle of combat zones. So my last question is, what other steps should the U.S. government take to make this better and to avoid what you have said a number of times is going to be a international cataclysm when the world sees what's going on in Gaza that the U.S. is supporting and paying for? What should the U.S. government do now?
Today, Mr. John Acri, who I think is the second in command of GHF, second in charge, whatever his title is, he was introduced by Mr. Chapin Fay, who's their spokesperson, who, by the way, also has no experience in humanitarian assistance or the military. So for Mr. Chapin Fay to say that I don't know what I'm talking about in terms of lines of sight or fields of fire, give me a break.
He's the spokesman?
Chapin Fay is the paid spokesman for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, a spokesman they had to hire and pay once my story broke. So,
where's he from? Do you know?
No idea. I mean, his entire life and background has just been PR. It's insulting. But Mr. John Acri has said, we would like to propose a plan for the UN and for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to work together. No. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation does not have the capacity. It does not have the logistics. It does not have the experience. It does not have the personnel to do half, part, or any part of the humanitarian assistance operation. What the United States should do is stop with this rhetoric that the United Nations is giving away all of its food to Hamas. That has been disproven. Re-engage the United Nations. Take all that money that we're giving to line the pockets of profiteers who spend most of it on PR firms and spokespersons and lawyers, apparently, and allow the United Nations to use it to not only expand their operations, but this would be a really good idea. Instead of the IDF sitting and just videotaping and watching UN trucks getting ransacked, perhaps provide some security for them. So I think it's ironic when Johnny Moore celebrates that not one of our trucks has been attacked. Well, you have them driving on a road that's in an area where there are no Palestinians that live within tens of miles, armed to the teeth by IDF and armed Americans. Of course, they're not getting ransacked. It's almost like you're in the stands of the football field and you're saying, well, I didn't get tackled today. You're not even on the field. So how about we provide some security assistance to the United Nations to go into these sites? Not arming or armed security, just a security presence to assist them in delivery. To empower the United Nations that has doctors and nurses and humanitarian assistants and nutritionists and people that feed people and people that know what they're doing and people that know how many calories come in a meal and how many calories someone needs, that can provide water. That'd be a great start. Water. The United Nations mechanism should be put back in full force today. The United States should stop. Do not spend another dime on the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation because it is not achieving any modicum of a goal of feeding anyone. It is not. It's proven that it's a failure. Why it's a failure? We can dissect that in the annals of history. I've got some ideas, but it's failed.
Have you had any contact with anyone from Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in the last couple weeks?
I have never had any contact from anyone within the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation at all, period, ever. So the fact that they can so bodaciously say that I'm a liar and they've never even spoke to me, it's pretty bold. I don't know of, other than Mr. Johnny Moore and Mr. Chapin Fay, the spokesman, I have no idea what human beings are in the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation.
Much less who pays the bills.
Much less who pays the bills.
Making, yeah.
Who's making what? Love to see that.
Well, I think you've done a lot so far. Colonel, thank you very much.
And thank you
for spending all this time.
It's been really happy that I can come up here and be in the studio. It's a great experience, and thank you.
So it turns out that YouTube is suppressing this show. On one level, that's not surprising. That's what they do. But on another level, it's shocking. With everything that's going on in the world right now, all the change taking place in our economy and our politics, with the wars we're on the cusp of fighting right now, Google has decided you should have less information rather than more. And that is totally wrong. It's immoral. What can you do about it? Well, we could whine about it. That's a waste of time. We're not in charge of Google. Or we could find a way around it, a way that you could actually get information that is true, not intentionally deceptive. The way to do that on YouTube, we think, is to subscribe to our channel. Subscribe. Hit the little bell icon to be notified when we upload and share this video. That way you'll have a much higher chance of hearing actual news and information. So we hope that you'll do that.